and welcome to Churchy Chats with a Church Girl. My name is Alicia Wiley. If this is your first time here, I am the owner and creator of a Church Girl, which is a lifestyle brand and a clothing line that seeks to inspire and uplift everyone we have the privilege of connecting with. As always, I am excited about tonight's episode. We have some fun, juicy, hot topics, and we have some ladies who are returning to the show. But this time, we're going to learn a little more about them with our influencer interviews. So make sure you stay tuned. Before we get them in here, come on and share this broadcast, tag your family, friends, tell them come on in the room and join the conversation. Let's get our guest in for the evening. Hi, Mel. Hi, Lauren. Welcome back to Churchy Chats.
Hey, ladies. Hi.
Hi.
How y'all doing?
Good. Tired, but good.
Listen, as long as the good is in there, then it's good. Go on and reintroduce yourself or say hello to the Churchy Chats audience, Mel, and then Lauren, you can follow right up.
Okay. Hey, y'all. My name's Mel Wilkerson. I am the creative brain behind Candid and Coded. Alicia and I go way back 20 years now. I just
Ooh,
thought about it today. I was like, it's been 20 years. And I
wow.
love Alicia and I love her brand. So I'm excited to talk with y'all today.
Oh, love you too, Mel. Thanks for being here.
Hello, my name is Lauren Spearman. I'm an inspirational speaker known as the Bounce Back Advocate. And I love me some churchy chats. I love
Oh,
just talking to faith based people about current events and hot topics. So I'm elated to be back today.
we love you too, Lauren, and thank you for coming back. I know that both of you ladies have busy schedules, so we certainly appreciate you coming back and gracing us on Churchy Chats.
Of
So
course.
let's get into these hot topics. So I have not watched reality TV in a while, not because I have anything against it. It was just like, the same thing over and over. So I was like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm done with this. But I did hear that one of the Real Housewives of Atlanta, Portia Williams, is engaged to her co star's ex husband. But here's the thing, I read a
Mm.
little bit about it, you know, enough to know that it's just been like a month since their divorce was announced or their separation. I, what do you ladies think about this? Is this okay?
Okay, so I also want to say I don't really watch reality TV. Again, nothing against it. It's just not really my thing. I probably haven't watched Real Housewives of Atlanta since maybe like season 2. So I don't really know
Oh,
a whole lot about the show and what's going on in their lives in depth. But unless you live under a rock, you heard that Portia was engaged to
yes.
her co-star slash friend's ex-husband or soon to be ex-husband, because I did learn from her post, her being the wife, that they aren't technically divorced just yet.
Ooh.
So I have more questions than answers,
Mhm.
because I got some mixed reviews. Some people said, and they said that the two women weren't what you actually call friends, that they were just
Right.
acquainted, and all of that. But what I did see, I did go back to watch on YouTube the clip from the show when
Mhm.
Portia was at the girl's house and they, were keying it up or whatever. Okay, so for me personally, if my friend has ever exchanged phone numbers with, a sandwich, a coffee, said she liked him, maybe they talked for a little while via social media, for me, that's enough to where it is like a no go, completely off limits for me if
Mhm.
that's my friend or somebody that I know. But I also understand true love and true connections and all of these things. So I don't want to be the one to throw stones at her for her
Sure.
decision or throw stones at him for his decision, because I'm not a part of their real life in their real world. But
Mhm.
for Mel, it would have been a no go.
Yeah. Lauren, what are your thoughts?
And I feel the same way. So I actually love reality TV. I'm a reality TV junkie.
I used to
And
be, girl.
yeah, like it's like a guilty pleasure of mine. It can be draining. So I see where you're coming from. But I was such a fan of Portia. I'm
Mhm.
a fan of her evolution, her coming into her own, being independent, being free and fun, and living her best life. However, I feel like there has to be some sort of boundary and moral compass.
Mhm.
So I've seen reactions from different people. People are like, hey, let her live. She's grown, this, that, and the third. And it's like, I get that. But as Mel said, once you get to the point where you're breaking bread, even if you're not actual friends, even if this was set up by producers for you to
Mhm.
say that you are friends just to tie her into the storyline, you've been in her home, you've broken bread with her, she introduced you to her husband. At some point there has to be a boundary that is set, just a respect boundary. And they say that you can't help who you fall in love with, but I believe you absolutely can, because you can stop anything before it gets to that level. So for me,
Mhm.
I was very disappointed as a diehard Portia fan. It just messed me up.
Yeah, and I didn't dig deeply into it, but I think how I kind of made it more close to home, if you will, is if it was a coworker of mine, right? Because
Mhm.
we know that on these shows, they orchestrate these situations. They make it seem like, these women have been knowing each other and that they're bosom buddies, but usually that's not the case. All of that is kind of orchestrated.
Right.
But at what point do you say, even if it was put together, it, I
Yeah.
don't know. And if I think this is so touchy. But if I think I might be kind of liking your husband, which is even hard for me to say,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
um, how do you handle that? Maybe I would be like, look, I don't need to be in too many scenes with her and him or her. Even if, like, because just being around people makes you privy to their situations, right?
Right.
Hmm.
So let's say she's off camera, it's a break and she's on the phone and you overhear that they may be having some marital problems. That's not something that you really need to hear, being that you have a crush on her
True.
husband.
Right.
you
Right.
know so I don't know how it works as far as contractually, but it just seems like it could be messy, and I kind of feel sorry for Fallon, I think her name is,
Yeah.
Hmm.
because even if they're truly in love, I think that hurts more, to see your ex constantly, with this person. It's recorded. I mean, I don't know. It just seems
Yeah,
like a tough
it's
spot.
it's a lot. And for me, we talk about being church girls. I'm at a place where I'm like, listen, I'm young, I'm hip, but at what point do we say right is right and wrong is wrong? Like, society is just kind of like in a whole YOLO type of situation, and people are, just living, living, living. But we do have to have some type of accountability and some type of moral compass that says, hey, everything is not okay to just go out and do. And when I think about even them being engaged within a month,
Yeah.
how is a month a long enough time for you to determine if this is somebody that you're going to be with for the rest of your life, for you to consult God, wise counsel, premarital kind, like for you to really see this person in all seasons to say, I want to marry you?
And especially with this person just getting out of a relationship. I think,
Yeah.
I've heard of quick love stories, and we know each other for 6 weeks, we got married, and here we are 50 years later still married. Okay, fine. And, I'm getting up in age. So, Lord, I'm okay with a 6 week work. I'm okay with that. But if the person is recently out of a marriage, then I think that shifts it a little bit, because that makes me feel like, are you doing this for the right reasons?
Hmm.
You may just want companionship. You may be trying to prove something to your ex. Like, we would really have to connect on a deep level for me to move that quickly with someone who just got a divorce.
And I think connecting on a deep level is one thing, but I think it's something totally different to be public. And they also
Yes.
stated that they don't know when they're going to get married. It's,
Mhm.
it's just, it's not a matter of who for them, it's a matter of when. So it really didn't have to necessarily be rushed the way that it was.
Mhm.
But to piggyback off of what Lauren said, I say that all the time. You can't help who you fall in love with, but you can help who your friends are, right? So if I
Hmm.
see
Yes.
a person and I know that on the surface, A, B, C, and D are the things I don't want to deal with in a relationship or in a marriage, I'm going to remove myself from the situation so that I can't fall in love with this person. And so this isn't even a conversation. And regardless, like you said, of the nature of their job, it was still their job. And I couldn't see myself with one of my coworkers coming over for the Christmas dinner, bringing cookies in her house, offering a chocolate chip cookie to her husband. Like, it's just it, like I said, it's not a male move. And to piggyback again off of what Lauren said, we have to have a moral compass. At some point, you have to say, you know what, like, don't touch that. Like, it's
Right.
not okay. We're not gonna go there. We're not gonna do this. There's 20 billion other men in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You are in a position to meet those 20 billion other men. It
Yes.
doesn't have to be like your friend's ex. It just doesn't have to be friend, coworker, acquaintance, whatever.
And can we at least be discreet? Like,
Right.
like you said, the rush of it all. Like, even if y'all were engaged, did it have to be announced to the world? If it's been years, I'm not saying people would be like, "Oh, girl, I'm so happy for you," but there's at least like a respectable time that you at least wait. Not that that makes it right, but at least it's not like 30 days, you know?
And I think that was the extra part of the speculation, ladies, is that people are saying, is there a pregnancy
Yeah.
involved?
Mm,
Is that why there was the rush in announcement? So I guess time will tell.
She posted a video on social media this morning or either last night. I saw it today, where she was, full blown workout mode, kind of like trying
mhm,
to prove to people she's not pregnant. But
mm,
like you say, time will only tell. But for me as a woman of character, it says a lot when you have to flaunt something in someone's face when they're hurting, right? So in my
mhm.
regular world, I don't have the platform that she has. I
Sure.
wouldn't be with my friends ex, but let's say my husband to be was fresh out of a divorce. I mean, it could be 6 months to a year. If I know that
Mhm,
that other woman is still having an issue and still healing and going through some things, I'm not going to parade it in her face. Now, I understand that she may not have tagged her in a social media post, but you know who you are. You know that everyone's going to see it. And it's one thing to hurt, but it's a whole nother thing to hurt publicly and then add a
mhm.
little embarrassment to that. And as a woman of character, I just even if we did get engaged after 30 days, I don't have to like shove it down her throat and just tell everybody.
Yeah, I
I
absolutely
agree.
agree. Lauren, your thoughts?
Well, because now the whole world has their eyes on Fallon. Everybody's rushing to Fallon's
Mhm,
page to see what is she doing, how is she feeling, is she gonna come out and say she's hurt? And it's not for reasons of concern for some of them. Some of them is trolls and
mhm.
nosiness and to harass her and for her to be going through this healing process. There is no reason why I should know that there was a prenup and she has to move out of her house, but
Right.
Right.
because of who Portia is and the announcement, now we are made privy to so much of her private, sensitive information. I
Mhm.
feel for her.
I do
Yeah.
too.
And women, we already get the brunt of everything, whether it be on Portia's end or on Fallon's end. It's always about either what we did or didn't do. And then, if there's a divorce or there's a separation, then what didn't you do to keep your man happy?
Yeah.
Or even if you don't go
That's it.
there, even if it's just, she should be happy for them. And it's always seemingly on the woman and how we handle it. And we are scrutinized for every little thing. So while I don't know Portia, I want her to be happy. I don't know Fallon. I want her to be happy. I just think this situation would have been better privately. And I know being a celebrity in reality television, that's not altogether possible. But there are some celebrities that you never hear anything
Right.
about. So it's interesting,
Mhm.
how much we let on and how much we want to be known. But that's a whole nother conversation. But this is completely changing the topic, but um, I don't know about you ladies, but well, I do know. Mel and I had a conversation about this not a week ago. So, service providers, particularly beauty industry service providers, beauticians. I don't know if they even call them beauticians anymore. So, cosmetologists. nail technicians, estheticians. I don't know how long this has been a thing, okay? Because my hairdresser, which they probably don't call him that anymore either, I literally went to since I was 12 years old. So it took me a while, to do the whole online booking and stuff like that because I just didn't have to. But anyway, or I knew the person and all I had to do was text them and be like, "You have any availability?"
Right. I'm coming.
But right, I'm on my way. But all of these particular industries are really strict about late fees and you arriving to your appointment on time. But I'm a very time conscious person. So I'm going to be probably 15 minutes early for almost
Me too.
everything because that's how I am. But I've had a couple of situations that I was on time and they weren't. And I'm like, well, if I had to pay $20 if I was late, why haven't we deducted $20 off of my bill? Because if time is so important, then why is it mine as important as yours? What do y'all think about this? Like,
Mm.
it seems to be an extreme to me.
It grinds my gears. Like grinds my gears. There's nothing that grinds my gears more than someone disrespecting my time, right? I feel when a person is late, habitually late, that it shows that you care more about what you have to do than what I have to do. And I really don't like that because if I set an appointment for 3 and you're not getting to me till 3:30, I bust my butt to get here for 2:45 to make sure that I'm not late. And I sat here, I could have just arrived at 3:30. But to answer the question, I was an esthetician. Well, I'm still technically a licensed esthetician, but I was an esthetician. I practiced an esthetician for a few years, and that was my policy. If I ever canceled on you last minute, within 24 hours, one time my daughter got sick and I had to cancel a whole day's worth of work. And then in my text to them, I told them that their next service was on me because if you would have canceled within 24 hours, I would have still billed you for the service. And I know
Right.
that just like I plan for them, they plan their day around coming. And if I was gonna, be late, I would always throw, I was rarely late, but if I was, I would throw something in there because I can't ask you to do something that I don't do. But I feel that the vibe for a lot of service providers is that they're doing you a favor. So it's like you want to be in my chair, you want to lay on my table, then you're just gonna, do whatever. But like Alicia said, we talked a couple of weeks ago. I had an appointment. I had to cut my services short because the service provider was late. And what irritated me the most was that she didn't even apologize for being late. It was just like, "Oh, you're ready?" "No, Mel, I'm so sorry. I apologize." None of that. It was just, come on. And then at the end, she, after like swiping my card, the question came like, "Do you want to leave a tip?" And it's just like, okay, you asking me for a tip, which is a whole, that wasn't one of the questions. I wish it was a hot topic because you don't ask people for tips, but you asked me for a tip after I've already, had to wait for so long. It kind of, rubs me a little bit the wrong way.
Yeah, Lauren, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I know, Alicia, when you posted that video.
Girl.
Oh, wait. Well, first, can you tell the people about that video before I go
Yes.
in?
Yes. Listen, y'all, this was maybe like September, October. And I, first of all, had a fresh twist out. Let me start there. I had a fresh twist out, but I had an appointment to get some soft locks done. And the girl lived about an hour away from me. For those in the New Orleans area, she's in Luling. So she texted me while I was on my way and was like, "Can I push your appointment back? Because I just had a walk in." And usually I'm very understanding, but I was like, "No, respectfully, I'm on my way, and I made my appointment weeks ago. So how can a walk-in just usurp the whole situation?" Well, she said she understood, right? So I get there and I come in, have a seat. I must have waited like 30 minutes, but after the first 15 minutes, I was like, because she was in a different room. So I texted her. I was like, "So, what's, what's the deal?" No response. So then after like the 30-minute mark, I went and knocked on the door and I was like, "Can you please step out for a moment?" Because I had texted her that too. And I was like, "Listen, we can do one or two things. You can discount my services or you can return my deposit and just let me go. And she was like, okay. And just the attitude, the blatant disrespect, and she was so inconsiderate. It, when I say y'all, I was hot as fish grease. And let me say this, the Lord, anytime something doesn't work out, I always say it's the Lord if I had a feeling because, you know, he'll warn us. I kind of had a feeling that things weren't going to work out, but I was like, no, I'm going. It's just all in my head, and it wasn't. And that is something that I listen. It was horrible. And I have another story, but I'm gonna let Lauren put her 2 cents in. But just the blatant disrespect and disregard, especially to say I took a walk in. Like I've been having an appointment for like 3 weeks. So
Yeah.
it's just so inconsiderate. But go ahead, Lauren.
That story just touched me to my core because I know some really, really great service professionals. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I do with my hairstylist is we barter services for, me actually being her part-time assistant. So I get to interact with clients and I get to see the other side of it. So I know what great customer service looks like.
Hmm.
However, I've also experienced a certain time where I went to see a very, very popular makeup artist. If anyone knows me, they knows I love a deep face. But a very, very popular makeup artist. She does immaculate, beautiful work. But one of the things I noticed my very first time having an appointment with her is that she was running late. And when she came in with Starbucks
Mm.
and there was no apology. There was just a wave like, come sit down. And I'm just like, so nobody's gonna address the fact that I've been sitting here waiting, and then I know that you've actually stopped somewhere.
That's a
Um,
lot.
yeah, it's a lot, and I just feel like a lot of service professionals, they want us to value their time because it's their livelihood, it's their life, and if you're late, you set them back for their next client. But they
Hmm.
don't give you that same grace. They don't know if I have a meeting right after this appointment, or if I have to go pick up my child after this appointment. And a lot of times it's just really, really hard because you just want to come in and get a service done, but your whole day is interrupted, and they don't seem to have that same grace or same empathy when it comes to you. Because, like I said, I don't think I've ever received a discount for a late service
Me
ever.
neither. I can't think of any time that has happened.
I've never been on the receiving end either.
Yeah,
And
like
that's
an apology. I have had apologies, but I don't think I've ever had someone be like, "Let me, refund you about $25 for the
right.
25 minutes."
And that's the thing. I am very understanding. So at least if you let me know, I mean, I may not be able to change the fact that I have to leave. For instance, I had an appointment. I don't know, Mel knows about this, but this has been maybe about 2 months now. And I literally waited 30 minutes. And then there was a receptionist. And I was like, can you find out, how long it's going to be on my service? And she was like, sure. So she comes back and she was like, she's wrapping up. So I waited like a few more minutes, still nothing. I was like, listen, can you just tell her I'm leaving? And then she was like, wait, wait, wait. Let me go back there and tell her and see what she wants to do. I'm like, but it's not about what she wants to do anymore. And I didn't even
Hmm.
have anything to do like that. But I was like, the blatant disrespect
Yeah.
of my time, no, thank you. So they go through this whole thing. Oh, please, leave your name and your number. She's going to call you as soon as she gets out of the service. I haven't heard from her yet. And she
I
clearly knew
know.
about the situation because they went back there and told her. So I'm just like, if you don't want people's money, you know, you all usually charge, a deposit, which I don't mind. I'm sure people make appointments all the time and never show up. So
Right.
that makes perfect sense. But I need these people who provide these services and have all these late fees to chime in and let us know, like, how does it even make sense? I need somebody to make sense of this, that you can just be blatantly disrespecting someone else's time, but for you, you just won't have it.
And you know what's so funny? Like my hairstylist, um, there is no like late fee kind of like thing really. Like if I'm,
Hmm.
if you're late, but she's also the most apologetic if she is running late. Like that's the thing that's
Mhm.
so interesting. The ones that don't have the policy in place are the
Hmm.
ones that are so empathetic for you and so apologetic when it's them. So it's so interesting that I know. I mean, I have made appointments with people who require a deposit and a credit card hold, but I am more comfortable making a new client appointment with those who don't, because I feel in my experience it's been better when there is a little traffic. And I have, like, very recently I scheduled just for like a gel polish change on my toes. I wanted to get a
Hmm.
polish change before picking my daughter up from school. I made the appointment in enough time, waited 30 minutes, and by this time it doesn't even make any sense, because even if you were to start on me at this moment, I'm gonna be leaving without being done. And so
Exactly.
the guy, he said he was sorry, and I left. And so I was mad. I called one of my friends. I was like, I literally just wasted all of my time sitting here. I'm never going back again. Well, right after I got the phone with her, he called me and he was like, "Oh, Miss Mel, I'm so sorry." He was like, "Please give us another chance. Please book another appointment. Your next service, it'll be free. Please let us do it." And after I went the next day or 2 days later and I got it done, I booked a paying appointment after that, because I just appreciated the offer or the gratitude or the expression of being sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes a big difference. And that's what I love about my hairstylist is she definitely prioritizes customer service above everything. And
Hmm.
one of the instances that I know for sure that she had that had her running behind was that one of her clients was late and they begged her like, please still take me.
Hmm.
And so in taking that client, that ran off
Whole day.
the entire rest of her day, which it was like burning her up because she's so big about being prompt in customer
Sure.
service. Or like there was a particular client who came to her for a silk press, but
Hmm.
when they came, their hair was basically in dreadlock state.
Oh wow.
So what should have taken like an hour and a half, now you've got to spend about 45 minutes
Detangling.
detangling
Yes.
before you can even start the service. So I think that consultations and just clients also taking responsibility to make sure that they're on
Hmm.
time will also help in that process. But again, she's so apologetic. I can't relate to these stylists that go on Facebook on these rants
Girl.
about their customers and just are like, and you could just take your money elsewhere. I can't relate to that. Not as an entrepreneur.
And if
Right.
every client really did take their money elsewhere, you would be in trouble. So be
Exactly.
careful. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. Before you go mouthing
Mhm.
off, talking about what
Yes.
you don't care about, I'm sure you're going to care if you can't eat. I'm sure you will
Yep.
care if your lights get turned off. So
All of a
not,
sudden, you'll
yeah, all of
care.
a sudden, just you will now care. Like, don't be so cocky and so arrogant.
Yeah. And I just think, like you ladies said, if somebody is apologetic and understanding of a situation, then that's totally different. And I can, work with that. But just when there's like blatant disregard, and this is an industry wide thing, and I'm
Mhm.
like, some of us aren't even that good. And if I book with you, I book with you. So it's not about, I guess, at that point, the level of your work, because if I book with you, then obviously I would like your services. But I just think it's crazy. And I've
Yeah.
had story after story of people just being so inconsiderate. And I'll just sometimes, just for fun, I'll be looking at hairstyles or whatever, and I'll just go click on the booking page just to see, and then you have everything in all caps about, and it's highlighted about how you not gonna waste their time. I understand and respect that. I'm just asking for the same
The
respect
same
in
in
return.
return. Like that
That's all.
situation where you were at the salon waiting, somebody should have come to you. Would you like some water? Would you like some snacks? She'll be done in about 15 minutes. And if she's still not done in 15 minutes, she needs to come out personally and say,
Herself.
I'm
Apologize.
Yes.
so sorry. Just, if you can just give me 10 more minutes. There has to be more regard because I'm like you. At what point does the policy flip? And I hope that people, that our service providers will be in the comments and will let us know, at what point does it flip to where, since you are now docking people's, money and asking them to pay more, when do you provide a discount on the flip side?
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And this is the last thing I'll say about this. Back in the day, this wasn't really a thing, although, sitting in the hairdresser for hours back in the day kind of was a thing.
Mhm.
But older cosmetologists, perhaps y'all need to mentor some of the younger ones, encourage them to make it make sense. That's all. That's all we're asking, is just to
Mhm.
make it make sense and for it to be respect on both sides of the situation. That's all. So,
That's it.
ladies, that's it. Just respect. So, ladies, we're going to take our first commercial break and we'll be coming back with our first influencer interview with Mel. Stay tuned. Churchy Chats is now airing on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow on all platforms. So we're back with Mel. Make sure you share this broadcast, tag your friends, and join the conversation. When you were introducing yourself, Mel, you said that you are the creator of Candid and Coded. Tell us what that is.
So Candid and Coded is basically a Christian brand. The names speak for themselves. Candid because I believe that there has been a lapse in terms of the Christian community connecting with culture, right? So it's connecting Christ and culture and being truly candid. We tell the glory of God all the time, but we tend to leave out the embarrassing story part. But for people to really know who God is and who God has been to us, we have to be able to reveal some level of transparency. We're always talking church talk, but sometimes we leave out the real life stuff too. So you can be candid in your talk, but still coded in Christ at the same time. So that's where the name came from, and that's the whole premise behind the brand.
Okay, so tell us what services, what does Candid and Coded provide?
So we speak. We also do a lot of like life coaching one-on-one, as well as like group classes. We're working on curriculums and all those sorts of things, like some more virtual. Y'all, I say transparency in ministry, so I'm gonna be very transparent that social media has not always been my thing. So we're transitioning into that. But we do a lot of coaching and a lot of mentoring, trying to help bridge the connection of people who want to grow in Christ at the same time.
So tell us, Mel, what encouraged you or inspired you or pushed you into this line of work? Being a life coach and, you know, somewhat taking responsibility for people, that's big. So what made you decide to go into this?
Well, it's funny because I fell into this more so than decided to go into it. I found myself always being the advice giver, the one that was always taking people to coffee shops just to talk and mentor and to pour into people. And it grew from there. It grew from just one-on-one conversations to group conversations and now actually being like a thing. It's funny how when God calls you for something, he'll prepare you. So I didn't realize, even being a little girl at recess under the monkey bars with my friends, instead of playing, I was giving life coaching sessions in the second and third grade. So it's just so cute and funny how things come full circle.
Yeah, and I think it's amazing because Mel and I were very similar in high school. We always seemed to butt heads, but it wasn't because we always disagreed. I mean, we probably agreed more than we disagreed, but
Oh,
our
yes.
reasons for it seemed to be different. So
Right.
that's where we would, kind of share our thoughts. And we were both very vocal and, all
We
of that
thought we were
stuff.
going to be attorneys, remember?
Yes, it was supposed to be Wiley and Wilkerson, or Wilkerson and Wiley.
Wiley Associates, yes.
Then we were supposed to be, do you remember we talked about being morticians? You remember that?
Okay, so let me tell you about this. So I do remember talking about being a mortician, which is something I can never do. I can only talk to the family in the front. I couldn't deal with the bodies in the back.
I would be dealing with the bodies.
That would have been you dealing with the bodies, and I would have been passing the tissue to grandma. Yes, totally.
Yeah, and I think it's amazing because, you see things in people and even in yourself, but to see it in someone else, even, in high school, and to see it turn into something that is actually their life calling. It's
Yeah.
really, it's really something to see. So, Mel, if someone wanted to get some services from you, well, before we go to that, I know it's hard to give general advice or, you know, say something to everybody and it hits home. But what are some general things that maybe someone may be struggling, someone may be in need of like a life coach and they may not even know it yet. What are some things that you would recommend that could pretty much help anybody?
I don't believe in never having opportunities to like grow and do better. So it's never too late for a do over. I say that all the time. It doesn't matter how much you've messed up or screwed up, we
That's good.
always can get that do over. So it doesn't matter if have done committed 20 murders. You might be in jail and that might be where you are, but it's not too late for a total life transformation and total life do over. So it's never too late for a do over. And I also feel like if you feel stuck, there are people, life coaches, and then beyond that, therapists and a whole lot of other people who can help you get unstuck. You don't have to be in the quicksand forever. So no matter what external factors are going on, you have the ability and the authority over your life because God gave you that authority to make changes and transform.
That's good. Really good advice. Now I'm going to ask you this because of just the name of your business.
Okay.
Let's say somebody comes to you and they say, I have tried or attempted or even been candid and transparent, and that backfired. Either, somebody took it and gossip, somebody used it against me. How do we heal from that and then are still able in relationships going forward, in situations going forward, be vulnerable, for lack of a better term?
And that's the coded side of things, right? Like we can be candid all day, but if we're not coded in Christ and we don't get that discernment and we don't decipher certain things, we can totally get burned. I mean, again,
Mm,
transparency in ministry. I haven't always made the best choices. You live and you learn from those things. But when we shift our focus back to the coded side of things and dive into God and spend some time focusing and listening, because especially someone who would say that they've tried to be candid and it's backfired. Sometimes we
mm,
talk too much and we don't listen enough.
mm,
So I have been in seasons of my life where it has been study me and God. I don't have it in me to pour into someone else right now because
mm,
I have to focus on some things. So depending, of course, on the details and the circumstances, my first thing would be to shift them back to the coded part of stuff and get coded in Christ and be able to discern when to say things and when not to say things. And hurt people. And when we're hurt by people, we have to remind ourselves that that's not, that's not the Lord, right? Like we have a lot of church hurt and we have a lot of friend
mm,
hurt and we have a lot of family hurt. But just because we have hurt from those imperfect and flawed people, as we are also,
right.
that doesn't change the magnitude of God's grace and God's transformative power.
That's good. So tell us, Mel, if we want you to be our life coach or, we want to follow you, you already said that social wasn't really your thing, but you're doing
Yeah, I'm gonna
better.
do better this year. Trust me. Follow me on Instagram at Candid and Coded, and I promise y'all, this year I'm gonna do so much better. But I'm also on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook, and in July we'll be launching a YouTube channel, so it'll be Candid and Coded
Okay.
on YouTube as well.
Okay. So if we want to contact for you for services, how do we do that?
There's a link on the website. So once you click on the Instagram page, there will be a link that'll be posted tonight. I'll make sure I put it on there tonight. CandidandCoded.com. There's a link on there. Just press the link and it'll come straight to my email.
Perfect. Mel, thank you so much for coming back to Churchy Chats. I appreciate it.
Thank you for
I
having
pray
me.
that all of your endeavors with Candid and Coded are what you expect and more, and God is just going to absolutely blow your mind. But thank you for being here, and thank you
Thank
for
you
being
for
my friend.
having me. Thank you for being my friend too. 20 years. Can you believe it?
Girl, she means she's going to let y'all know our age. We're
20,
only
well, I mean,
25, Mel. We were in high school at 5.
yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. We're the youngest graduates of high school.
Yes, I accept that. And that's all y'all need to know.
All
Thank you
right.
so much, Mel, for coming back on Churchy Chats. We'll be right back with Lauren's influencer interview. Stay tuned.
Bye.
Lauren Spearman. She is the bounce back advocate. So I knew that this was your brand
Mhm.
before we officially met. Let me say that um, Lauren and I met on Churchy Chats last year, right? So
Mhm.
I found her, saw that she was doing a great work for the kingdom, and I invited her to be a guest on Churchy Chats, and the rest is history. So this is a very busy woman who is just making waves for the kingdom. So I am so happy that she's back tonight. But tell us, Lauren, what does the bounce back advocate mean? What does that mean?
Sure. So the Bounce Back Advocate is a moniker bestowed upon me by my amazing mentor, Ivy McGregor, after she heard my story and my heart about how much I am an advocate for the underdog, the Cinderella story, and the comeback kid. She was like, "You are an advocate for those who need to start over, who need to have, some fresh energy injected into their purpose because they have these dormant gifts that need to be stirred up and need to be let out, and they've somehow forgotten about themselves, wrapped up in the different roles that they wear." So she was the one who came up with the catchy title of the Bounce Back Advocate, and I'm so grateful to her because it took on a life of its own.
Hmm. I love it. It, like you said, it's catchy and it makes sense, of course, when you explain it. But tell me this, Lauren, what if you don't mind sharing a little bit? You said after your mentor heard your story,
Mhm.
she felt like this was, the area you needed to move into. So if you don't mind just telling us a little bit about your story and how she came to the, conclusion that this was for you.
Absolutely. So in 2017, I was in a place where a lot of people find themselves where every day seems like a routine.
Hmm.
It seems like you're just going through the motions of being a zombie. You wake up, you get your kids ready, you go to work, you come home, you
Hmm.
get your kids ready, make sure homework is done, dinner is done, bath is done. If you have a partner, you cater to that partner, and then you go to sleep, and then you have to do it all over again the next day. But wherein that is time for you, and that is your purpose. So I had gotten to a point, and I didn't even realize it, where I was sinking into depression just because I had lost who I was. I was mom, I was employee, I was girlfriend, but I had no idea who I was as a person in my dreams and what I wanted. And in the midst of me being in this zombie like state, my whole world began to fall apart, one piece after another.
Wow.
So my car was repossessed on the parking lot of work during
Wow.
lunchtime,
Oh,
and it
people
was
are
on the
disrespectful.
yeah, and it was on the day of my cousin's funeral, which was about an hour across town.
Wow.
So when they took the car, of course, I missed my cousin's funeral. And when are you ever going to get that back or get to do that again? So it was just like the worst possible day that it could have happened. I'm like, why couldn't they
Sure.
just wait the next day? So that was the first thing. And then the person that I was with at the time got injured on their job and went for workers' compensation, which launched an investigation, and they found out that his injury was due to a rule that he was negligent with on his part. So then he automatically lost his job. That was their
Wow.
way of not having to take care of his
Hmm.
injury.
Hmm.
So then we have a financial deficit in the household. Well, I was already going through some stressful things at work, so I decided to take a lower paying but less demanding job around that time. So now our income is just even more devastating, and we're trying
Hmm.
to, make things work and rob Peter to pay Paul, going to pawn shops. I was even
Wow.
looking into donating plasma, whatever we could do, but it just
Hmm.
wasn't enough. And so eviction from where we were living came shortly after. And at the same time, we found out that my son, who was about 2 at the time, was
Hmm.
diagnosed with autism.
Wow.
So you have loss of job, loss of car, loss of living situation. Your child that you love more than anything in the world is diagnosed with special needs. And it was just like, what else could happen? Well, all of those things took such a toll on the relationship that the relationship, after almost 9 years, ended.
Wow.
So then you have loss of relationship. You know, it's like, God, I know we were shacking up, but I thought this was going to be my husband. Now, you know, what do? You have literally nowhere to go. So I had hit my personal rock bottom, and I went to move into my grandmother's house
Mm-hmm.
and tried to start over and try to rebuild. But it was a very hard culture shock, you know, to go through that in your early 30s. When you think about your
Yes.
early 30s, when I watched Living Single, you know, those people were supposed to be, you know, lawyers and movers and
Tell me about it.
shakers and,
That's not the
you know,
same
living in a
thing.
brownstone.
Yes.
And it's like I just found myself having to start over from square one.
Mm-hmm.
And when I slowly began to come out of, you know, that depressive state with the help of a village surrounding me and covering me, with the help of therapy, I knew that God didn't bring me out of that just so that Lauren could be okay. I knew He brought me out of that so that I could be, I don't want to say a martyr, but just an example for other people, that I could identify that, you know, that brokenness in, that, listen, I have been through the fire and God brought me through, and I know that He will bring you through as well.
Yes.
So I mean, it's kind of like Harriet Tubman in the Underground Railroad, but I'm bringing people through brokenness,
Mm-hmm.
from their potential to their promise, just by pulling them up and reigniting those dormant gifts and being their personal cheerleader.
Now, let me ask you this, Lauren. If you think that your life would have gone differently, I'm not necessarily the type of person that says you have to have been through something to help me. I mean, I think it depends on the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think if you had not gone through those things, that you would still be where you are? You would still be the bounce back advocate? Or do you think that God, and I don't want to say He put you through that just because, but do you think that that landed you at your calling, at your destiny?
I think absolutely those situations shape me. And I don't blame God for those situations,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of those are my own choices. I was
Now
running
that's
towards
good.
my will versus God's will. And I was so deep in that I was just trying to make it work. But
Mm-hmm.
I knew that that was not my God ordained husband. But I was just, you know, so loyal, and everybody around me was getting married, and he wasn't doing anything specifically wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no reason for me to shake things up and leave. And
Sure.
at a point, you know, God will only let you go so far before He's like, okay, no, it's my turn, and we're going to
Right.
do this my way.
Mm-hmm.
And each of those situations that I've gone through, and even some that I've, you know, gone through after the bounce back, I know that they are shaping me and molding me so that I can be more effective with what I do. Because I definitely could have, you know, just finished out college and, you know, taken a life coach course and been a motivational speaker based on skill. But
Mm-hmm.
because of the situations that I went through, that's where the oil and anointing and character and integrity was built. It was through those lessons and through those processes. And so now I am so much more sensitive to people and circumstances and situations. Whereas before, I was, you know, kind of on the outside looking in, you know, just young and in my own little bubble and in my own
Mm-hmm.
world. But now I can look into the heart of a person, and I can have more empathy for what they're going through, and I can relate to their situation more because I have been through their shoes and I've walked that walk.
Yes, that's a excellent point, because I know youth will do it to you too. You know, youth is
Hmm.
prideful and
Yeah.
says what we won't do and how certain things will never happen to us. And after going through things and just growing up, you realize, first of all, to never say never. I know that sounds cliche, but the facts are
Yeah,
facts.
it's
You've
real.
learned, right. And what I appreciate about life and experience, as you said, it helps you to be compassionate. You know, when we're speaking from a place of, and like you said, certificate. meaning I have book knowledge or I have school knowledge. Of course, there's nothing wrong with that. I promote education. However, sometimes that can cause us not to be as compassionate towards people because
Yeah,
we feel like, well, if you had just done X, Y, and Z, you wouldn't be in this situation. Well, life
that's
will
it.
quickly teach you that's not the way this goes. So I think it's amazing that you took your experiences and circumstances and you bounced back and you're helping others bounce back. But you are also the host of a podcast called Check on Your Strong Friends. Tell us about this.
Absolutely. Well, Check on Your Strong Friends is my mental health podcast, and I started it with the mission to normalize the conversation surrounding mental health because a lot of people that were close to me when I started to come out and talk about my story, they seemed like they were shocked because they were like, you never asked for help. You always look so happy. You were posting these selfies and you were glammed up. Like, we never knew what was wrong. We would have helped you, but we never knew. And it's because there's a stigma that depression looks like something. You
Yes.
know, society will tell you that depression looks like if I walk around in all black and my nails are black and I'm listening to heavy metal music or I'm listening to sad music, that's what depression looks like. But that's not the case. There are some very happy, successful, and bubbly and charismatic people
Yes.
who are just holding on by a thread because of the fact that they are stretched in so many different directions. They pour out to so many people depend on them, but rarely are people asking about how they're doing and how they can take things off of their plate because they think, oh, they good, they got it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, just because a person can carry the weight alone, it doesn't mean that they want to.
Absolutely.
So that podcast for me was just, eye opening to show people. And at the same time, there were a lot of prominent people committing suicide, was what
Mm-hmm.
really did it for me. You know, Kate Spade, the handbag designer, Robin
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
the comedian actor. And, people were just so shocked. And it's like, it's
Mm-hmm.
because the people who ask for help the least often need it the most.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to check on our strong friends because you never know what someone is going through.
That's so true. And it's funny that you mentioned Robin Williams and Kate Spade. Um, when Robin Williams committed suicide, I don't know why it hit me like it did. I mean, of course, he was a big part of my childhood, like he was for all of us. But it still kind of just lingered for a while, with me, and it was very disturbing. And that too made me wonder, or think about rather, how often or how hard it is, let me say that, how hard it is for those who are considered strong to even if somebody comes to you, it can
Yeah.
still be hard to say I'm not okay
Yeah,
because
very hard.
yeah, and I think a lot and not just in the African American community, but I can speak from that. You'll tell people what you may be going through or this or that, and they'll say, especially as it relates to maybe, your brothers and sisters and, whatever, maybe your parents hold you to a higher standard or, your responsibility is more in the situation. People tend to say, well, God know that you were the strong one.
Yeah.
And, and that just adds because it's like, God wants me to feel like this. God wants me to be heavy laden, and I think sometimes we just misspeak and we don't truly
Definitely.
hear people's cry for help.
Yeah, and people will use scriptures like, well, he'll never put more on you than you can bear. And that is true, but he didn't mean for you to bear the weight alone. That's why
Right.
you have villages. That's why you have resources such as therapists. So he also gave us five senses along with
Yes.
it. That, I cite the scripture, faith without works is dead. And
Mm-hmm.
the works is we have to do the personal work to find the resources that we need to help us because we were not meant to struggle mentally, physically, financially. That's not what God meant for us. And I'm so glad that you talked about the responsibility of the strong friend because that's actually something I cover in the first episode is that
Mm-hmm.
on the flip side, we have to quit lying and saying, I'm fine
Mm-hmm.
when we're not fine. We
Yes.
have to be okay with saying, I'm not okay. And I was one of those people that literally asking for help would put a lump in my throat and just a queasiness in my stomach, because it was that fear of, what is this person going to think about me? Are they going to throw this
Yeah.
up in my face? But I had to learn to get past that, because, having principle and having pride never got anything solved.
That
But,
part.
humbling yourself and being vulnerable can actually cause a solution, because even if they don't have it, they can probably point you to someone who does, or just make the process easier for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Lauren, tell everybody if they want to, bounce back with the bounce back advocate. Tell us how they can do that. How can they get in touch with you? All of that good stuff.
Oh, awesome. So you can actually locate me on my website, www.bouncebackadvocate.com. You can make sure to drop in a consultation note, leave me a message, and I will follow up with you and we can schedule some time together. You can also see a full suite of my services that I offer, as far as bounce back coaching, speaking engagements, hosting engagements, panels, and moderating. Everything is on there for you to see. You can email me, Lauren at bouncebackadvocate.com. On Instagram, you can find me under the Lauren Spearman, all together, TheLauren Spearman on Instagram. And on Facebook, it's Lauren Spearman.
And Lauren, where can we hear your podcast?
Oh, my podcast is available on all streaming platforms, from Apple Podcasts to Google, Spotify, Overcast, Radio Public, iHeartRadio. You just search Check on Your Strong Friends and the podcast will come up for you.
Wonderful. Lauren, thank you again for coming back on Churchy Chats. I hope you'll come back again next season. We're wrapping this season up, but I appreciate you taking the time to come back on Churchy Chats and chat with us.
Absolutely. Just give me a call or email. I'm there.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Lauren.
You're welcome. Bye bye.
Thank you all so much for tuning into this episode of Churchy Chats. A special thanks again to Mel and Lauren for coming on and chatting it up with us and telling us all about what they're doing in the kingdom. Listen, this is the second to last episode of this season. Next week is the season finale of Churchy Chats, so make sure that you don't miss it. Make sure you tune in and be ready to join the conversation. I am always very grateful for your love and support, and I appreciate you tuning in week after week. I do not take that for granted. And as always, I want to see you right here, same place, same time on Churchy Chats with the Church Girl. Good night.